Live.
Welcome back. This is we're gonna try something different today. I am old new dude, and he is
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
instead of reading down his long list of notes, and it's usually very intelligent and extremely well written. My notes look like chicken scratch, and I can't even read them. So, but today we're gonna do something a little different. See how it works out.
That different. Not that different. I just thought we'd list the very brief summary from Westeros.org. Like they start off with just a few sentences that summarize the chapter. Because we try to go through the highlights and the questions that we have and so forth, and we'll still do that. But I just thought let's take a second to go through the two or three sentences that they summarize the chapter with.
Not a problem, man. Take it away. You're the brains.
Yeah. Anyway, Catelyn and her party finally reach the Bloody Gate and safety. At her sister's request, Catelyn makes the dangerous night ascent to the Eyrie to meet Lysa and her sickly son Robert. Okay, so that's just to remind people like where we are as we then dive into the highlights. And we could have spent a long time on like every symbolism element in here, especially the ones that refer to the landscape as human or weapons.
Right.
which arguably implies like that nature is at war with humanity, that sort of thing, right?
Right.
But we don't want to spend 2 hours, so let's not do that. My lady, you should have sent word of your coming, Sir Donald Waynwood told her as their horses climbed the pass. We would have sent an escort. The high road is not as safe as it once was for a party as small as yours. We learned that to our sorrow, Sir Donald, Catelyn said. Sometimes she felt as though her heart had turned to stone. 6 brave men had died to bring her this far, and she could not even find it in her to weep for them. Even their names were fading. So we've got the Stoneheart foreshadowing, and their names fading reminds me of Dany being upset with herself for not being able to remember names, and that she'd vowed to remember. And Ned remembers the King's Guard, but he's forgotten his companions that he vowed he would never forget their faces.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see hidden fingers everywhere. But I mean, this is one of those the birds I listen to repetition of either speech, phrases, or actions, impulsive or just, and then also loss of memory. And just a little nod to her losing the memory of those people's name. I still say that the path that she got put on to get her here, that started at the end of the crossroads, was all magic fingers. And the fact that it's magic fingers.
And so the universe where she doesn't remember these people's names because, in fact, in sort of the original world, she never even met these people.
Right. See, oh crap, I lost it. Well, I mean, you even have her sitting there going, "Is he guilty? Really?" Yep. And then you got "Oh yeah, he's guilty." Well, those magic fingers trying to keep her on the path. It's still a path that she would have took if this happened. I mean, she still thinks Tyrion's guilty. I mean, she wants him to pay, but like I said, those little magic fingers. They're a nudge in a direction that you could have gone anyways, but it's the direction that they wanted.
Interesting thought that people's heads may have some sort of memory of the way the world was before and so forth. Kind of like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I had my moments.
They had drawn up for a last desperate fight, blades in hand and backs to the rock. The dwarf had been whetting the edge of his axe and making some mordant jest when Bronn spotted the banner the riders carried before them. The moon and falcon of House Arryn, sky blue and white. Catelyn had never seen a more welcome sight. So this seems likely to foreshadow the end of the War for the Dawn with forces arriving of uncertain loyalty. It definitely foreshadows a lot of scenarios we've seen frequently with people believed dead arriving. So most likely the War for the Dawn will include somebody arriving who is believed to be dead, like Jon or Bran. it definitely foreshadows like the believed dead Ramsay at Winterfell, the believed dead Renly's ghost at King's Landing, the believed dead John Cunnington at Storm's End. Probably even Ned lifting the previous siege was sort of a dead man, and that the king had ordered his execution. So in some ways, he could be perceived as kind of a dead man.
Right. And in the very first paragraph, I wrote it down and I missed it. It says, "My lady, you should have sent word of your coming," Sir Donnell Waywood told her as their horses climbed the pass. "We would have sent an escort," and this is the best part. "The high road is not as safe as it once was."
Oh, yeah. The literary high road.
Right. And I made a comment.
That's great. Oh, yeah. You're right.
Made a comment that it was about Ned and Jaime. I think we were talking about the bath scene with Jaime and Brienne, and how dare the wolf judge the lion? I mean, how could he listen when he's looking down off his horse?
Right.
And my thing is, I mean, the high road is nice, but if you stay on it all the time, the gravity's a bitch.
High road is not as safe as it once was. Ooh, I love that phrase.
Well, the high road is getting Ned killed. The high road is going to get Cat killed. The high road is going to get Rob killed. I mean, the high road. I mean, I love the Starks. I'm all wolf, and I love the high road most of the time.
Right.
But sometimes you got to get down in the mud.
Right. It's not always safe to stay the honorable course. I love it.
Right. Go ahead.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. She wants all our swords kept close to home to defend the Vale against what? No one is certain. Shadows, some say. So since shadows represent the others and the need for the Starks to focus on their home, is Lysa the wise one?
It's possible. We'll get into that here in a minute.
And of course, in this case, the shadows are the Lannisters, and she even says that. She says not shadows, Lannisters. Well, of course, it's the Lannister soldiers, and we've talked in the past about how soldiers who are supporting the Starks, the Lannisters, or the Targaryens seem to be the most frequent others that we see.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the others were coming up behind her.
Perfect timing.
Right. As we were saying, they're sort of like Kingsguard in a way. They tend to be swords and loyalists of some royal family, whether that's the King of the North family or the Lannisters and Targaryens.
Well, the comparison between an army, foot soldiers, master at arms, and the others. I mean, especially if the others are of a hive mind. When you have an army, even if it's only 50 men, they have one task. All of them have one task and been given one task, and they have to fulfill that task. So, I mean, they're kind of one mind also because they have no
there
say
are some
in it.
similarities.
Right.
You've surrendered your free will to follow the orders, right? And then of one of these royal families, essentially, right? So, and then. And of course, part of it, I think, is that the concept that they're in some ways they're sort of like Kingsguard, and the Kingsguard are undead because we think the Kingsguard are basically undead, right? That the undead symbolism is somewhat of a hint that in fact many of the Kingsguard survived, possibly all of them.
Well, I mean, this popped in my head, and somebody might have said it, but you kind of know how my memory is. Could the vows be the way that they are on No Lands, Father No Sons? Is because once you're brought back the first time, you can't do that stuff anymore. Well, you can't make sense.
I think the real intention there is probably to compare their role to bigamists. In particular, Jaime is as blatantly breaking his Kingsguard vow as possible, right? And it's a vow of take no wife. Similarly, a marriage vow is a vow to one person, take no second wife, essentially, right? And so the concept of bigamy is very much like breaking your Kingsguard vow, and that's part of why by what right does the wolf judge the lion is so hilariously hypocritical, right? Because it specifically was to stop Ares, and Jaime broke his Kingsguard vow to stop Ares. So by what right does the wolf judge the lion? It's completely hypocritical.
Well, I mean, stop thinking about this. Jaime stood there All that time, his sword still in his scabbard, sitting there with the Mad King. But the second he asked for his father's head and burned the city, Jaime said, "Forget this." But he did his job up to the point.
Arguably, he did what he was supposed to do. He was told to kill his father, and he did.
Exactly. You beat me to
it. I'll come as well, Bronn announced. She liked that less well. Without Bronn, she would never have reached the Vale, she knew. The sellsword was as fierce a fighter as she had ever seen, and his sword had helped cut them through to safety. Yet for all that, Catelyn misliked the man. Courage he had, and strength, but there was no kindness in him, and little loyalty. And she had seen him riding beside Lannister far too often, talking in low voices and laughing at some private joke. She would have preferred to separate him from the dwarf here and now, but having agreed that Marillion might continue to the Eyrie, she could see no gracious way to deny that same right to Bronn. As you wish, she said, although she noted that he had not actually asked her permission. So Cat is definitely observant here.
Right. Well, she's also taken the high road by not being rude and saying, "No, you can't come." So,
right. That's
again,
part of what's so dangerous. Yep. He was Lord Hoster's brother, younger by 5 years, but the two of them had been at war as far back as Catelyn could remember. During one of their louder quarrels, when Catelyn was 8, Lord Hoster had called Brynden the black goat of the Tully flock. Laughing, Brynden had pointed out that the sigil of their house was a leaping trout, so it ought to be a black fish rather than a black goat. And from that day forward, he had taken it as his personal emblem. The war had not ended until the day she and Lysa had been wed. It was at their wedding feast that Brynden told his brother he was leaving Riverrun to serve Lysa and her new husband, the Lord of the Eyrie. Lord Hoster had not spoken his brother's name since, from what Edmure had told her in his infrequent letters. Nonetheless, during all those years of Catelyn's girlhood, it had been Brynden the Blackfish to whom Lord Hoster's children had run with their tears and their tales when father was too busy and mother too ill. Catelyn, Lysa, Edmure, and yes, even Peter Baelish, their father's ward. He had listened to them all patiently as he listened now, laughing at their triumphs and sympathizing with their childish misfortunes. When she was done, her uncle remained silent for a long time as his horse negotiated the steep, rocky trail. "Your father must be told," he said at last. "If the Lannisters should march, Winterfell is remote and the Vale walled up behind its mountains, but Riverrun lies right in their path." "I'd had the same fear," Catelyn admitted. "I shall ask Maester Coleman to send a bird when we reach the Eyrie." She had other messages to send as well, the commands that Ned had given her for his bannermen to ready the defenses of the north. This is somewhat ironic, but she does actually have a lot of guilt in this, specifically associated with Jon. And there are some clues here about their wedding. And so actually, I do think this is sort of an appropriate shirt in a way, but it's somewhat ironic, right?
Yeah, I think my shirt's shipped today. They sent a letter. I don't know if it's my shirts, your shirts, or the Valentines, but one of them shipped today. So soon I'll have a different shirt to wear for this thing.
Notice that Brynden's final straw was the marriage of Lysa and Catelyn, not some marriage proposal for himself. So we believe Cat was married to Ned as an act of extortion and bigamy. So he may have been aware of that and disgusted with his brother for the way he forced that marriage. He also may have been disgusted with his brother for following what is arguably the biblical interpretation of abortion. So I don't know if you're aware, but the second book of the Bible talks about abortion, right? And it specifically says that if a woman is pregnant and you suspect that the father is not her husband, you should give her an abortifacient. He's sort of done his biblical duty in that regard. He's slipped an abortifacient to Lysa to force an abortion because the father is not the man she's marrying.
Right. Now, is this where the Ned and Hoster Tully, is this where the argument, is this the hint at, or is it somewhere else in the book?
So this makes it, I mean, I do think that's what drove him away, was that the marriage, the treatment of Liza, maybe the treatment of Catelyn. But it's not clear. She says it's like the day the war ended. So that implies that it was like Rob's situation where they were engaged and then they had to come back at the end of the war. Is almost what it sounds like. I always thought that she said, yeah, that can't be right because she makes it sound like Ned rode off to war. Remember?
Right,
Yeah,
right. I'm assuming that she's the marriage of her and Liza to Ned and John Arryn.
Yeah, it happened right away.
It's not right away. That action alone is what helped win the war. Without that action, they were toast.
Right. But she makes it sound like the marriage was, but this is wrong, right? Because she specifically, what happens is she gets married and then she doesn't see Ned again until Winterfell as he rides off to war. So the war had not ended until the day she and Lysa had been wed. Oh, I see what she's saying. She's saying that they had been fighting over the Blackfish thing until the day that they were wed. And then he stopped fighting at all. I see. I misinterpreted this. Okay, the war, this is not the Robert's Rebellion War. This is the war between the Blackfish and his brother, Hoster. Yeah. And so the war ends because he leaves. Okay, my mistake. I apologize. Anyway, so yeah. What's happened is the war between the two of them ends, but it's because basically he surrenders because he's disgusted with his brother because of the marriages. Okay. Yep. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But I do notice but it is correct here. The notes are correct here, right? It's the final straw was the marriage of Lysa and Catelyn, not some marriage proposal for himself. He's disgusted by the weddings of Lysa and Cat, and potentially the abortion as well, right?
Right. He's majorly upset about the remarriage of Ned because he knows what that makes Cat.
Yep. Right.
The one that came to him all the time when they were little, and loved their uncle dearly because their father was busy. He's going to make her an unmarried woman and all her children bastards. Yep. Because of Holster Tully. I can see that. Just we read that Robert got a purple face. I can imagine the blood or blood.
Yeah. That's really the riff. People think it's because. But it's very clear here. It has nothing to do with his desire to not be married. It's very clear here.
They might have had little squabbles here and there, little dust ups.
Well, because of that. And I'm not saying that he didn't have those disputes, right? They were at war over his marriages and so forth, right? I'm saying what drove him away was the marriage of Cat, right?
Yep, I think that was the one that sealed the. Yep. Put the last nail in the coffin.
Right, and it's a lot harder to be with Cat when she's going to be with John and Ned, and he's going to be constantly reminded of his failure to tell her and so forth. It's much easier to go with Lysa.
Well, see, also there's a thing. He's against the losing the baby too because Lysa was another one that came to him, loved him, all the same.
He loved Peter like a son.
Right, the baby in the belly is a Tully too.
Yep.
So yeah, I can see this. I can see this fight just.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
John Arryn's true-born heir by all the gods. Yet there are some who say he is too weak to sit his father's seat. Is he? Is he John Arryn's true-born heir?
Well, I think not. They put that in there just to. I mean, no, he's not.
No. A woman can rule as wisely as a man, Catelyn said. The right woman can, her uncle said with a sideways glance. Make no mistake, Cat, Lysa is not you. Catelyn the Great, heir to the King of the North. The King of the North. The King of the North! Anyway. I see an axe on his saddle, a dirk at his belt, and a sellsword that trails after him like a hungry shadow. Bronn is the shadow yet again.
Again.
Here comes a quote I may have borrowed once. What madness is this? He said bluntly. Brynden Tully had never been a man to blunt the edge of his words. A night ascent with the moon not even full? Even Lysa should know that's an invitation to a broken neck. Yes, I am guilty of stealing this line for Triplet Targaryens in A Song of Ice and Fire. What madness is this?
Hey, when they first came into the veil through the gate and got new horses and all that stuff, and it opened up, there is a sentence that that she thinks, she says, the veil of Aaron bathed in the morning light. And what is morning light? Dawn.
Yep.
Some people believe that the stronghold, other than Harrenhal, for humans during the long night will be the veil.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because it's going to be winter, so probably not because it'd be so hard to get people up there. But
I don't think they're worried about anybody else but themselves, though. I think that's why Peter Littlefinger is in the veil.
how's he going to go back up?
No, I'm talking about the whole veil itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's where the food's going to be. It's where the ports that are going to be cleared. It's where I mean they can bring. I mean, I'm not talking about the Erie. I'm not talking Erie. I'm talking about the whole veil itself.
I actually think the Erie, some of the Erie foreshadowing could hint at the idea that there actually is a war after the that fire comes after the ice, that it's a song of ice and then fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we could see Dany still at war with people and so forth, and so it could be a hint that in fact they're going to unite to beat the others, but then go right back to fighting.
Right.
Anyway.
Human nature. I mean, okay.
Anyway, Catelyn had nothing against this girl, but suddenly she could not help but think of Ned's bastard on the wall, and the thought made her angry and guilty both at once. I wonder if Catelyn may have behaved in some way deserving of guilt.
I wonder. Maybe.
His love she might be, but no Redford would ever wed a bastard. His family would arrange a more suitable match for him to a Corbray or a Waynwood or a Royce, or perhaps a daughter of some greater house outside the Vale. If Michael Redford laid with this girl at all, it would be on the wrong side of the sheet. Sadly, Catelyn knows how her society operates.
Yep.
It seemed as though they were moving up a long black tunnel. It sure seems like our author intends tunnels to be important.
Yeah, all over the place.
Yeah. But he even introduces them this isn't even a tunnel, right?
Right.
It just seems like a tunnel. Like he wants tunnel imagery as if tunnels are going to be really important, right? So,
well, I think that's how it's a one way that the I don't think the White Walkers are the dead, so they can cross the wall. They just choose not to right now. But the gate at the Night Fort, the Black Gate, whatever they call it, all you have to do is say the words. You don't have to be a brother of the Night's Watch, because that's how, I mean, Mance Rayder gets through there and he turned his cloak up, sort of. I mean, he pretended to turn his cloak to get everybody up there. But I still think that is a path that can be taken by the White Walkers to cross through. Hell, they might even just go like this and make a big old tunnel.
I think it might be foreshadowing of the importance of Bran or somebody from up north having to get through. There's all sorts of things that could be, right?
Yeah, the crypts at Winterfell.
Yep.
All right.
But it just implies there's more importance to come from some of these tunnels somewhere. Which at this point, of course, that's true because we see important tunnels in the story. But anyway. Perhaps she did doze for a moment, for suddenly a massive iron-bound gate was looming before them. So Preston likes to notice people losing time. I think sometimes it just represents sleep, but I don't know. It's one of these moments where somebody seems to have lost time.
Well, I mean, I think 9 times out of 10 is something to definitely take notice of.
Right.
And what's coming after this that we were talking on Twitter about makes me think that there is something to her losing time.
It could be.
It's part of the process of what's going to be happening.
Winter is coming, child, she wanted to tell her. The words were on her lips. She almost said them. Perhaps she was becoming a Stark at last.
No, you ain't.
It's interesting that she doesn't, so she isn't a Stark. She isn't yet a Stark.
Nope.
20 feet long and close to 3 feet wide, but with a precipitous drop to either side. So 3 feet wide with a precipitous drop sounds like a description of Angel's Landing.
Yeah.
In Zion. National Park. I bet George has experienced a windy day in Zion. There's approximately 1 death per year. It's not exactly the safest hike in the national park system.
This guitar is probably 3 feet from bottom to top, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
No, actually, it's just a hair longer. I think it's right here. That's actually a pretty good distance.
The description of Angel's Landing is specifically. I've never actually. I mean, I've watched videos of people doing it. I haven't actually done it, but
yeah.
One photographer told me he did it during a thunderstorm. I'm like, dude, he's so lucky to be alive. But anyway, the short it is a sheer drop on both sides. It's about 3 feet long, and the short drop is 800 feet, and the long drop is a lot further. And it's that is not a very safe hike.
No.
Give me a step now. That's it. Move your foot. Just slide it forward. See? Now another. Easy. You could run across. Another one. Go on. Yes. And so, foot by foot, step by step, the bastard girl led Catalin across, blind and trembling, while the white mule followed placidly behind them. So the white mule reminds us of Ghost, and one step then another reminds us of Samwell.
Yeah. Trying to get that wind.
So this is where you guys were tweeting last night.
Yes.
Or this morning, whatever it was.
I'm trying to find the paragraph that starts it.
Because the point was that there's lots of wind going on, and some people think that the wind is because we know the wind talking is like the old gods talking, right? So it's symbolically been spelled out to us that when Bran is trying to communicate that he's basically, it just sounds like the wind. So the concept might be, this may have been a chess move that had to be undone. It may be that Catelyn died here, and the reason she's frozen is because Bran made her stop right before she would have died, so that Maya would come back and help her. Right.
Well, you get the description of the wind blowing her hair in her eyes. It's swirling around her. She makes it sound like the wind is out to get her at this point. And then before this, we're told by her that there's scarce a tree anywhere near the top. It's all rock. So I say, or I came up, I don't know, is Godspeak has to have 2 things. Wind, which is the voice, but it has to have leaves, brushes, shrubs, something to actually be the vocal cords for Godspeak to work.
So you can't talk to her.
Right. It can't, because there's nothing there for the wind to interact with, nothing natural for the wind to interact with to make Godspeak. And we hear Mira, and it's just 3 feet. There ain't nothing going on. I'll walk up here. The donkey's behind you. In the morning, it's gonna make waffles. But she's like, she's done it 1,000 times, but it's not that big a deal. She doesn't mention the wind, I don't think. So, are we getting an unreliable narrator in Cat at this point describing what's going on and over exaggerating? Now, I can see it all happening exactly like she says it. You get wobbly knees. You're scared out of your mind. But is there more going on? And if so, with that wind, is there 2 people or 2 things trying to have something done at this moment? Is this why Cat possibly died the first time she went through, and that's why she's frozen, like you said? And is it the second person, which Future Bran is your popular theory, is Future Bran fighting with whatever tried to get her to fall to try to save her life?
Right. Yeah.
It can go so many freaking ways just talking about it. I had a blast talking about it. I never thought about that chapter that way until this guy started asking questions. Yep. And I was just trying to.
That was Connor, wasn't it?
Yeah, Connor Gray. Yes, shout out Connor Gray.
First commenter.
Yeah. Shout out. And then Wiz the Smith jumped in there. I want to say this morning, with a couple of
Okay.
questions.
I may have missed that.
Yeah, that's where the no leaves came up, because he wanted to know where the quote for that was, and it's right before she crosses that bridge. She's talking about there's no trees up here, and then I was talking about the God speak needing two things.
Yeah,
But
and people sometimes forget that we're specifically told that that Bran will soon learn to see well beyond the trees themselves, right? So the implication is that he's more omniscient than the trees. Like some people seem to think that he has to be near the trees, and that's the training wheels. He's able to go anywhere.
Well, I mean, remember what the Blood Raven told him? Said, "Well, walk, no, but you will fly." Is using God speak with the wind, putting him on the wind to get to the person that he's trying to talk to and talk to. Is that what Blood Raven is referring to fly? I mean, traveling on the wind to do something. I don't know. You know me, I started talking, and I can't remember what the hell I started talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and go a little faster now because we're past the half hour mark here.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. No doubt it'd be the easiest thing in the world to begin an avalanche from here. So some theorize the mountain clans will do so. Now, some people think that'll happen, like to interrupt the tourney, for example, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I've seen that theory. I don't know that I really subscribe to it, to be honest. I think that the main action is I'm all in on Toodles and his interpretation, and Blue Lemons has a very similar interpretation, and I'm all in on that being the storyline. So I'm not really sold on this concept.
Yeah.
But.
Toodles is the hill I die on this one. I freaking loved it when you showed it to me.
Yeah, those three, and like I said, Blue Lemons has pretty much the same theory. She doesn't. I'm totally in that the three Westerosi with shrewd eyes are former Kingsguard. So I'm totally all in with the Toodles interpretation. But Blue Lemons has like 90% of the same thing, right? Minus the Kingsguard.
Works for me.
She seemed to notice the others then. Her maid, Maester Coleman, Servardus. So other than Servardus with his silver hair, these don't seem very Kingsguard-like. But they are serving the aunt of the king in the north. They are sort of, as you said, any soldier in this story is arguably like a guard, a loyalist who's surrendered some of their autonomy to serve the High Lords.
Yes.
I heard voices. Preston thinks Sweet Robin is psychic. In particular, he insists that he hears Marillion long after Marillion is gone. Right. So he's definitely hearing some things that seem like they might be some sort of visions or something.
Is he hearing God speak? Because they have a Godswood at the Eyrie, they just don't have a Weirwood tree. So there are trees at the Eyrie. So I mean, he could be just hearing God speak.
Yep. The seed is strong, he told me. His last words. He kept saying Robert's name, and he grabbed my arm so hard he left marks. Tell them the seed is strong, his seed. He wanted everyone to know what a good, strong boy my baby was going to be. So there's some repetition and ambiguity in here.
Somebody's going to take a picture of me doing that and blackmail me.
Catelyn was at a loss for words. Jon Arryn's son, she thought incredulously. Yes, amazing how impossible that is to consider.
The evidence is right there, just like Barry said. Everybody got eyes.
Harry the heir looks just like Jon Arryn.
Right.
Think
about it though, by the time Jon Arryn gets married, his hair is completely gray. So they don't see the young Jon Arryn with his blonde hair and then see little Robert. I mean, it's not completely noticeable at first. Not to make it a long story, but my wife, her side of the family, their children are born bleached blonde and they turn brown over time. So my oldest son came out bleached blonde, and me and my wife had a haircut like this. People kept looking at me. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
But with him, there wasn't a comparison to, because Jon Arryn's hair was gray, so nobody paid any attention to it.
Yeah, and that's one of the arguments with Rhaenyra's kids, is that they have dark hair, but her husband's mother has dark Baratheon hair.
It's
So
possible.
they should have dark hair. They're
We know
supposed to have dark
Baratheon
hair.
has good seed. So I mean,
Yeah,
I
they're supposed to have dark hair.
dark hair.
It's a really bad argument because and the argument specifically that they don't have the silver hair of a Targaryen. But
Right.
again, her official husband has the Baratheon dark hair. Anyway,
All right.
make him fly, Robert said eagerly. Lysa stroked her son's hair. Perhaps we will, she murmured. Perhaps that is just what we will do.
Mayhaps. King of the Crossing.
Yep.
Matt, I'll go ahead and tell you, there's a lot in this chapter that we left out just for time. This is a good chapter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not fond of cat chapters usually, but this one was pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. There's a ton of symbolism in there, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to skip that because if I don't, we're going to be here forever.
If I say this, Casey is just going to talk for 30 minutes off of something that wasn't even about this video. I told everybody you have the hard time of trying to keep me on track.
Yeah, we're read at a good length, and up next is Eddard goes to the brothel, and Jamie shows up.
Yes.
Somebody tips off a Kingsguard to take out the hand of the king.
I wonder who. But
Could it be the advisor that he trusts? Could it be?
Might.
Could it be?
That's a good bet.
Could it be? And could this possibly parallel? Do you think there's anybody who parallels Ned in the next book? Let me think. Does the advisor that he trusts perhaps send a Kingsguard after him? Oh, and by the way, you know my theory.
Oh, go ahead.
I've told you my theory on who I think is the parallels with Barristan, right?
I believe you have.
Yeah, the spotted cat's my guess, and then is it the Red Lamb? Is that the name of one of his knights? Anyway, I think it's called like the Red Lamb is one of his knights. That reminds me a lot of Podrick. So I'm hoping that the Red Lamb is going to save him from the spotted cat.
Hopefully, but this will be the next time when we read this chapter for Friday. Will be the first time I read it full-fledged, looking for hidden fingers. And then once, your quantum leap crap done got me all messed up. But I love it. Anytime I can look at it in a different direction, it makes like it's a whole new story.
Yep.
But okay, that's it. This is Wednesday, hump day. Everybody have a good rest of their week. See you Friday morning with Eddard. Was it Eddard 9?
Correct.
Okay. Wow, I got something right.
Good job.
I have been Old New Dude. He has been
Richard York, Asher's true-born son.
Y'all have fun. We'll see you Friday.
Bye.